Holy crap, Rachel. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jeez, Rachel says, you make me hopeful for the future of politics. Thank you, Rachel. I'm happy that you're here, and I'm happy that I make you hopeful. For everybody watching, let's get 4,000 Rachel W's for the $40. Thank you so much. You were so awesome. As well as Nikki, thank you for the $50. Jesus, Nikki, that is so kind of you. That's kind of both you, Rachel and Nikki. Show some love to Rachel and Nikki. Nikki says, do you think we will really survive Trump? If I'm being honest, I think that the country will. We're strong, man. This country is strong. I think that we will. I'm an optimist. I truly am. But great question, and thank you for the $50 once again. That is so much love. I do not deserve a penny of that. If everybody watching can please show some love to Rachel and Nikki while we're loading up that next guest, that'd be sweet. As well as, never mind. All right, let's go to get that next guest loaded up into the box. Right now, everybody, hop in that queue of your MAGA. We'll get you loaded in. Make sure that you're following the rules too, please, guys. Make sure that you're following the rules. And then once again, Rachel and Nikki, thank you both for the $50 and $40. Just one last time. Hey, welcome in. Do you support Trump?
Yeah, for the most part.
Okay, all right. Real quick, Katrina, thank you for the $15 on Venmo. Thank you, Katrina. Katrina says, consider a collab with Stephen West from Philosophize This and discuss logic and arguments. I'll have to look him up. Thank you for the input, Katrina. Show some love to Katrina down below. All right, Mr. Sir, why the hell are you MAGA?
I would just say one of the main reasons would be I'm pro-life.
Oh, okay, Jackson. How pro-life are you?
If it's past conception, then it would be wrong to abort.
Okay, in like all circumstances? Or do you make exceptions for life of the mother and grape?
I'd make exception for like life of the mother, but not for grape.
Jesus Christ, why, man? I mean, actually, here's a better question. What obligation does the victim of grape have to provide for the needs of the fetus?
Well, I think that, like, first off, like, you know, in a situation like that, it's a traumatic experience, right? Like, I'm not like putting it lightly to like what happened to that victim. I don't think like a result of getting an abortion is going to fix a past and what happened. And I don't think that as a result of...
Can you answer my question? I asked you a very clear question. Why is a victim of grape obligated to keep that fetus alive by giving it their bodily resources without consent?
Because if they... I would say because if they didn't, then it would result in them dying.
Oh, come on. That's not enough for an obligation. That's not enough for an obligation at all. If somebody is breaking into your house at night and... What the fuck? We already got another live visibility restriction? Damn, that's crazy. We're going to have to do another restart. What the hell? I don't know what's going on today. Maybe it's because of that. I think it's that. Okay, it should be fixed now. We still will have to do another restart. So you're saying they have an obligation to keep them alive because if they disconnected, then they die, right? Okay, all right. So if somebody's like breaking into your house at night and stealing half your food, and you know they're going to do this for like 9 months, and you know that this is going to really starve you, and it might even kill you, and all you had to do to prevent them from breaking in and stealing half your food was to lock your front door at night, but you also knew that caused them to die from starvation. Do you think you should be legally obligated to keep your door unlocked?
I would say like as like human beings, we have like we should have the intention of trying to help everyone that we can within our capabilities, right?
But should you be legally obligated to keep your front door unlocked?
It would really, I would say like no, but it would really like that situation is very vague. It's like that person's like out there starving or whatever, you know, like how'd they end up in that situation? I think it would be like a case by case kind of thing.
Okay, so you just told us that no, just simply stating that if you stop giving your resources to somebody, they'll die is not sufficient in determining that you'd have an obligation to supply your resources to them. So then what obligation does a victim of grape have to supply her bodily resources to keep the fetus alive?
Mm-hmm. Well, so that fetus that would be in the womb that has literally done nothing. It's innocent. It doesn't have the capability of feeding itself or doing all these things. So
wait, I have a question. Are rocks innocent?
Pardon?
Are rocks innocent?
Rocks?
Like literal rocks on the ground. Is this mouse innocent?
No.
Why is this mouse not innocent?
Because it's not a living human being made in the image of God.
Oh, okay. So are bacteria cells innocent?
Uh, no.
No.
Yes. No. I don't understand.
So the qualifications for being innocent are being a living human being made in the image of God. So you think it's innocent because of its
Well,
species
no, not.
classification?
Well, no. Well, not exactly, right? Because like you can be made in the image of God and still not be innocent, right? Like you can have a murderer, even
Okay,
though they're
okay, okay.
not
Like,
innocent.
so you're saying that it's innocent because it's a living thing that has done no wrong?
I'm saying like it's innocent in the fact like if like you have like a fetus that is like obviously it needs the mother to stay alive, right? I'd say like if you have a case like that, we should in our best abilities try to preserve all life.
Oh,
In
okay. So
that
you're not giving me an explanation why you think it's innocent. So once again, we go back to the original question: why does that mother have an obligation to sustain the life of that fetus?
I would say because the fetus is made in the image of God.
Oh, okay. So in other words, you're basically just telling us that the fetus is made in the image of God, so we got to keep it alive. Wait, wouldn't the person be breaking into your house and stealing half of your food also be made in the image of God? But you didn't have an obligation to keep them alive.
Well, I would say that there's the fact that like we're human beings, and I would say that we have like a moral obligation to take care of one another,
But you didn't
right?
say a
So,
legal obligation.
I mean,
You said that you
like,
should be legally allowed to lock your front door at night, even if it results in their death via starvation.
mhm.
Like, even though they're made in the image of God.
It's an interesting like correlation because like I think like in terms of like locking your door from like a person that's starving outside that's like you don't even know the situation that they're in is like different from like a fetus being in the womb.
Bruh,
Because I
you're
don't understand like,
LARPing.
why
You're
you
LARPing.
how would killing
One second.
fetus-
You're LARPing. Why
what
do
does
you
that even
have
mean?
a TikTok of like some pro-choice person reposted?
I'd say I'm pretty educated on the issue, so I like look at both sides of it. A
I mean,
pro-choice?
yeah, somebody that it's just literally a post about them being pro-choice and an argument insofar as why abortion should be legal.
It could have been a misclick or something, but
Okay.
that's
All
not.
right. Whatever. I believe that you're pro-life. Yes. Like once again, I mean, I think that I've made my argument clear. You said that for like whatever trivial reason, victims of rape have an obligation to maintain the life of the fetus growing inside of the uterus. I pressed you for why. We reduced it down to them being like a human being made in the image of God. Well, then I gave you the hypothetical of would you have a legal obligation to keep your front door unlocked, given that somebody came into your house every night because the front door is unlocked and stole half your food for 9 months. Even if this were to, Purdy, thank you for the under controls. Thank you so much. Even if this were to put your life on the line, potentially kill you and starve you over the course of the next 9 months, you said, no, I would not have a legal obligation to do that. I should be able to. 1 second. Purdy, thank you so much for all the gifts. You're awesome. 1 second. I'm so sorry. Purdy with the Leon the Kitten. Purdy with the meteor shower. Purdy with the flying jets. Thank you. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Give me a second. Everybody show some love to Purdy down below in that comment section right now. That is so incredibly kind of you. It is so good to have you in here with us for the day, Purdy. You are awesome. Everybody watching, show some love to Purdy down below in that chat. And once again, thank you so very much. Show some love to Purdy down below. I'm just going to start from the top because I just had to thank Purdy real quick. So once again, here's where we're at. I asked you why a pregnant victim of rape has an obligation to provide her bodily resources to the fetus. And you said because that fetus was a human made in the image of God. But then I gave you a hypothetical where somebody's breaking into your house at night and stealing half of your food. And they're going to do this for the next 9 months. And if they do this for the next 9 months, you're going to be physically harmed. And there's around a 5% chance that you're going to die. I then asked you if you should be legally obligated to keep that front door unlocked at night if locking it would ensure that person stealing your food would die from starvation. You responded by arguing that no, you should not be legally obligated to provide for the means of the individual stealing your food without your consent. You should be able to lock that front door at night, even if it kills them, even if they're a human that's made in the image of God. So at this point in our conversation, I failed to see the relevant distinction between that hypothetical that I gave you and the instance of a victim of rape accessing abortion. At the end of the day, she shouldn't have the obligation to sustain its life. At the end of the day, that fetus is only alive because of her bodily resources. And at the end of the day, the same way you should be able to legally lock your front door at night, she should be legally allowed to revoke consent from her bodily resources being supplied to the fetus, even if it means a fetus dies.
So let's say this, right? So like you're implying in this hypothetical situation where like harm is done to me, I could die from him stealing half the resources, right?
Yeah, I'm
Let's
just
say
implying this obligation that there's like no no, I'm implying in this hypothetical that there's no obligation. That's that's a morally relevant factor of why it'd be okay for the victim of rape to get an abortion.
like let's say there was like a victim of rape, right? Like this horrible thing has happened to them, right? If there was like a definitive factor that this person would not die from a result of like giving birth to the child, and this person would not suffer any sort of like emotional distress or harm mentally, do you think like that would change the factor at all? Like,
No, because I just told you the only thing that's relevant morally speaking to why it's okay for the great victim to access abortion is that she has no obligation to sustain the life of the fetus.
well, I would say the obligation would be like that, like God commands us not to kill things in His image, right? So you'd be doing that when.
So this goes back to God. Okay, sounds good.
Well,
What kind of Christian are you? What denomination?
I would say I'd probably align with Baptist beliefs, but I would probably lean towards like non-denominational.
I mean, Baptist is non-denominational. Basically, Baptist just highlights a personal relationship with Jesus. That's what it means to be non-denominational.
Well, not entirely, right? Because like Baptists
Basically.
would also with like baptism being personal decision, right? There's a couple other things, but you can say that.
Well, I mean, like the scripture tells you that baptism is a personal decision. That's that would be in alignment with the belief of somebody that is non-denominational.
Depends how you read it, right? Some people think baptism saves you. Some people think it's like it's like a personal decision. Some people think you should baptize infants, right? It's like
Okay, so that's a fair point. I guess it would be based upon your interpretation. Good point. That's fair. Okay, so let me ask you. So, are you basically saying that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin?
I'm saying that like we're called in Genesis, we're called not to murder anyone made in God's image, so it would be wrong for.
Yeah. So you're
like,
saying it should be illegal because it's a sin.
it should be illegal because it's a sin. Um, well, yeah, God told us not to, so like I think that we should follow what.
You're not answering my question. I don't know how to ask it simpler. Are you saying yes or no that it should be legal because it's a sin? Come on, you're smart enough to understand the question I'm asking you. I know you are.
Sure, we'll go with it. Sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, it's also a sin to lie. Should it be illegal for me to lie to my children and tell them that Santa Claus exists?
So let's say like I say yes or no to that question. I don't understand how that's affecting like the issue back to abortion being legal or not.
Yeah, well,
Or being,
it's testing if you have a coherent basis to use your religion to arbitrate and dictate a criminal justice system and impose legislation on the basis of something being a moral aggressment upon God's commandment. Because what I would say here is that there seems to be like no clearly definitive text within the Scripture inside of the Gospel that help us understand how some sins are worse than others. Sometimes we could point at like Mosaic law in the Old Commandment. However, we know that was fulfilled. And then when we look at the Gospel, the New Testament, we learn that you can't come back from blasphemy. So it's like all sins are equal outside of blasphemy. Then I think in like Romans, we learn a little bit about how all sins fall short of the glory of God, but we don't truly come to the conclusion that any one sin is worse than any other. At least you don't have an argument from the Scripture. That's why I asked you for your denomination, because sure, if you're a Catholic or Orthodox, you would because of the magisterium, but you don't. So, like, once again, the base that I'm testing here is if you're telling us that it should be illegal because it's a sin and sins are wrong, wouldn't you also logically have to say that all sin should be illegal?
it varies in dependence on it, right? Because like you could say that lying is actually illegal in certain cases, right? Like if you lie under oath, like you do these things in front where you like.
Right, but I'm asking you about lying in a circumstance where it like clearly shouldn't be illegal, but like the varying circumstances are not made clear in the Bible. It just says that lying's wrong. It's a deontic truth.
Not necessarily that says lying's wrong. It's bearing false witness, right? So
bearing false witness is equivalent to lying. I'm going to equate those two things.
How is it? It's completely different from bearing false witness and lying.
What does bearing false witness mean?
Bearing false witness and lying?
Just what is bearing? Because I know lying means intentionally saying something that is false. So what does bearing false witness mean?
So like when like bearing witness, you're speaking like truthfully of what you've seen. And that would be like in regards to like a legal matter, right? But like the definition of like lying would be saying something that's untrue or like deliberately like misleading others.
So you think that bearing false witness means what?
It's like saying something that is essentially like for instance, like if I were to like say sarcastically like I was hosting like a birthday party for my friend, he came up and he says, "Oh, what are you
I don't
doing
want an
tonight?"
example. I want a definition.
Okay, like bearing false witness and saying something sarcastically are two different things.
Oh, okay, but you're still not answering my question. What does bearing false witness mean?
It would fall into like a category of lying.
Okay, so what does it mean?
To bear false.
Not category. Not what category would it fall under? What does it mean?
I would say it would be like to say something that is untrue, deceptive, or like misleading.
Okay, so you just said that to bearing false witness means something that is untrue. We're gonna write this down.
Yeah.
So
Sure.
bearing false witness to say something untrue. Now redefine lying.
Like it could fall into the category of like bearing false witness.
That's
like,
not what I asked you. I asked you to define it. Define lying.
Define lying. It's just like I would say it's like saying like a statement that is like false.
Okay. Before I dunk on you, do you just want to concede? No. Okay. Well, you told me that there's a difference between bearing false witness and lying. Well, you just defined bearing false witness as saying something untrue, and then you define lying as saying a statement that is false. So what is the difference between saying something that is untrue and saying something that is false?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, again, if you would let me use my example so that you can like comprehend that, it's like if I was hosting a surprise birthday party for my friend, he came up and said, "Yo, what are you doing later tonight?" And I was hosting that surprise birthday party. And I said, "Oh, I'm just going to go out and like go grocery shopping," when in reality, I'm actually throwing a surprise birthday party. That would be a lie. However, that would not be necessarily fall into the category of like bearing false witness.
In accordance
right?
with your definition, it would. You define bearing false witness as saying something that's untrue. If you tell your friend that you're going to the grocery store and you're not going to the grocery store, you would be given a proposition which is false, meaning that in accordance with your definition of bearing false witness, that would be bearing false witness.
Yes. Well, bearing false witness also is the intention, right? So the intentionality of the bearing of the false witness, right?
So now you're I just want to make it clear. Now you're revising your definition, which is fine. I just wanted to be clear. To say something that is
like intentionally something you know is false for the wrong or malicious reasons, essentially, right?
Intentionally untrue for wrong or malicious reasons.
Yeah, sure. We can throw that in there. It's like I would say it depends on.
So I wouldn't say that that's going to be like considered under like a conventional assumption of bearing false witness. You know, like I could bear false witness to like my friend, and so imagine this. Imagine that I have a friend, and I know that this friend's girlfriend cheated on him. If he asked me, "Dean, has my girlfriend ever cheated on me?" and I said no, would I be bearing false witness even if I didn't have an intention of malice, but I rather just didn't want him to spiral?
I mean, we can continue doing this, but I feel like we kind of got derailed from the conversation.
No, we're not derailed from the conversation at all. Answer my question.
Okay, what was the question again?
Great. Right. So if I have a friend and I know his girlfriend's cheating on him, and he comes up to me and asks me, "Hey, Dean, is my girlfriend cheating on me?" And then I say no, not with an intention of malice, but with an intention of wanting him to be happy and thrive and to not spiral. Would I be bearing false witness even though I didn't possess an intention of malice?
Mm-hmm. All right. So I would say I just looked it up. I just Googled it right here because I'm not the dictionary. So like the bearing false witness that I think would make sense would be lying specifically about another person, often in a legal or public context with potential harm to them. And it always involves a third party where lying would not do that. So I would like kind of resort to that thing.
Okay.
So I would say that would
So now you're just completely changing your definition. Now you're saying
that
bearing false witness is lying about a person.
Well, specifically about another person, it involves a third party, right? And then you're doing harm to someone else through the deception.
So let's be clear. Bearing false witness is lying about another person, right?
Yeah, it involves another third party, sure.
Involves a third party. Okay, well, I mean, so now you've revised your definition to lying about another person involves a third party. I think that this statement involves a third party would be redundant because another person would imply a third party. So at its core, you're defining bearing false witness as lying about another person?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Because like my main point is that like that lying and bearing false witness are two different things, right?
Okay.
So we're called not to bear false witness, and we're also called not to lie, but
because
not
we're not over that yet. So now,
Sure.
now we've gotten to the point where bearing false witness is lying about another person, and lying is saying a statement that is false.
Sure, like broadly speaking, sure.
Okay, so let's get this clear. If somebody walks up to me, let's get this clear. I'm gonna ask a better question. If my wife walks up to me, and my wife asks me, Dean, how much money do we have? Do we have enough money to cover the bills? And we don't. I spent it all on a speedboat. But I tell her we do. I tell her that we have $100,000 in our bank account. Would I be bearing false witness to her? Because under your definition of bearing false witness, which is lying about another person, I wouldn't. Because I'm not lying about another person. I'm lying about the ones and zeros in my bank account.
Well, you have to understand it's like the focus of like bearing false witness is like it's doing harm to somebody else, right?
Oh, well,
so
now we're changing our definition. No. I asked you what the definition of bearing false witness was. We worked you down to lying about another person. Nowhere in that does that imply harm because the definition of lying is just simply saying that a statement is false. And that was your definition of lying that we got from earlier. So now you're revising it for the billionth fucking time. Okay, give me your final fucking definition of bearing false witness. Yes, you are. Let me explain to you exactly how you are.
So,
now you're implying some intentionality of causing harm somewhere within your definitions of bearing false witness or for lying. That is not true. I've written down your revised definitions of both bearing false witness and lying, and here's what I have. You define bearing false witness as lying about another person, and then you define lying as saying a statement that is false. If we replace the term lying in the definition of bearing false witness with its definition, your your fully arbitrated definition of bearing false witness would be saying a statement that is false about another person. Nowhere in your definition, saying a statement that is false about another person does it imply some intention of malice or harm, right? So now if you're saying that it would include an intention of malice or harm, now we just have to further revise our definitions. So for God, for the last time, glory Lord, define bearing false witness.
all right, like I'll concede the argument to you, and we can go with. I can agree that you like lying would. You can equate it to bearing false witness. We can just move on to the actual topic portion.
So now that we've agreed that bearing false witness and lying mean the same thing, and that you agree that we should be able to criminalize sins in accordance with the Christian faith, and we have no clear way insofar as how to determine if one sin is any worse than any other. In fact, the most knowledge that we have is that they're probably viewed identically in the eyes of God outside of blasphemy in accordance with Romans. If you're saying that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin, would you also say that lying to your child and telling them that Santa Claus exists is real should be legal because it's a sin?
I don't think that you should lie, but like I don't think that it should necessarily be illegal to lie on that.
So if the sin of abortion should be legal, why shouldn't the sin of lying?
Because we're directly called to in Genesis not to murder human beings that are made in God's image.
Just like you're directly called in Exodus to not bear false witness.
We're not upheld to Exodus.
You're not upheld by the Ten Commandments?
No, we are, yes.
The Ten Commandments are in Exodus.
Yes, but you also have to remember the commandments were made for like the good of the people, right? Like the law was, the commandments were made for us, right? We weren't made for the commandments. So like kind of like the Sabbath, like if it was hindering you from like helping somebody, then obviously you can break the Sabbath, right? So like in certain circumstances, I would say it would be okay to lie.
Wait, you think that you can morally break the Ten Commandments? What is the theological argument for that?
When Jesus was going out in like the fields and his disciples were picking the part of like the crop, and then the Pharisees were like, "Why are you picking the crop? You're breaking the Sabbath." And then Jesus is like, "Yo, it's okay because they're just feeding themselves." That's what I would push on to.
Wait, I'm so sorry. Is the statement you can't break the Sabbath one of the 10 commandments? Or is that Levitical law that was fulfilled by Jesus' coming?
It wasn't fulfilled at that moment, right?
Yeah.
Until Jesus.
Whoa. So did Jesus fulfill the old covenant?
Yeah.
So Jesus fulfilled the old covenant how?
By his death and resurrection.
So then why did he talk about fulfilling the old covenant before he died?
Because he came to do that. Like, that was his mission, like, when he came.
No, he said, I've fulfilled the old covenant.
Yes. What verse are you looking at here?
Yes. In Matthew 5:17 through 20, Jesus clarifies his relationship to the Mosaic law and the prophets, stating that he did not come to abolish them, but came to fulfill them.
Yes. Like, has that fulfillment happened at that moment? No. It's when he died and rose again. It's pretty common.
Wait. So you're telling me that Jesus directed some people to do something that was wrong?
In what way?
You told me that he told people to break the Sabbath when Levitical law was still in effect.
Oh my God, that's the whole point, Dean. You don't understand. Is that
wait? So then Jesus contradicted. God's commandment.
Dean, listen. Literally, Jesus said the Sabbath was made for man, not man for the Sabbath, right? So in terms of Jesus saying this, he's saying like you're allowed to, if you're gonna die or you need to eat, it's allowed, right? And it was permitted to like pick the crops, like to eat like the grains or whatever, right? But the Pharisees thought like, oh, you couldn't do anything on this. You couldn't do any work, right? But Jesus is saying, no, this is permitted. I permit this because he's the one who implemented the Sabbath, right? He's saying that it wasn't made the way that you thought it was made for. So they were not breaking the Sabbath. Jesus was clarifying what the Sabbath meant in that time, right? Okay. Because like whatever laws.
So basically what you're telling me is that predicated. Wait, so would you tell me that there's a possible interpretation of the Ten Commandments that would prelude to thinking that it is moral to kill people? Because you're basically saying that, well, they're not going to be like deontic truths. That there's like some sense in which it is not wrong to break the Ten Commandments. If there's some sense in which it is not wrong to break the Ten Commandments, well, then can I just use a similar argument as it would relate to abortion? In the same way you're saying, even though it is a lie to tell your children that Santa Claus exists, for whatever reason, you just don't think it's wrong, even though you acknowledge it breaks the Ten Commandments. Can I just say, even if I acknowledge that abortion breaks the Ten Commandments, it's not wrong for miscellaneous reasons?
No. Because, like, for instance...
Wait. So then if you're telling me that I can't have miscellaneous reasons to justify breaking the Ten Commandments, neither can you.
Well, no, because it's like, listen, like, you're not allowed to kill, right? But
why? What's your argument that I'm not allowed to kill? Because remember, it can't just simply be the Ten Commandments, because you're saying that the Ten Commandments can be overruled. So what are the overruling moral facts that would prelude to the conclusion that you are not allowed to kill? Because the Ten Commandments in of themselves is insufficient, as demonstrated via the example when you told me that you are allowed to lie, even though the Ten Commandments says you aren't.
All right, so I can point to verses like outside of the Ten Commandments. I would say it would be immoral to kill somebody made in the image of God. But however, if we're looking at the Ten Commandments, I never said like we can go around the Ten Commandments or like break the Ten Commandments. Jesus
yes, you did. You literally said that we can break the Ten Commandments.
I never. So no. So in the time of the Pharisees, what they thought the Sabbath was, it was not correct. So up to the Pharisees and to the people, they were breaking the Sabbath, but Jesus clarified it, right?
Okay. So now you're repeating that we can't break the Ten Commandments. So now you're saying that now you've clarified that we can't break the Ten Commandments.
They were never breaking the Ten Commandments in the first place. They were never breaking them. That's the whole point.
Okay. Is breaking the Ten Commandments always wrong?
Is breaking the Ten Commandments always wrong?
Yes.
Sure.
Is bearing false witness breaking the Ten Commandments?
Yes, but it's not.
Is lying equivalent to bearing false witness?
Like yes and no. Like it really depends.
There's not a yes or no. What do you mean? It doesn't depend. Now we're going to go back into the definitions of what bearing false witness and lying are, and I'm going to dog walk you again. So is lying equivalent to breaking the Ten Commandments?
Is lying equivalent to breaking the Ten Commandments? We're called not to lie.
That didn't answer my question.
What's the question?
Is lying equivalent to is lying equivalent to bearing false witness?
Sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So if it's always wrong to break the 10 commandments and bearing false witness breaks the 10 commandments and lying is equivalent to bearing false witness, then it's always wrong to lie.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. And when we say it's wrong to lie in accordance with the Christian doctrine, we're saying that lying is a sin.
Yes.
So
Lying
now
would
we've
be
come to the conclusion that lying is always a sin. And if lying is always a sin, and you think that we should criminalize sins, then it would entail that we should criminalize telling your children that Santa Claus exists, because that's a lie, and lying is always wrong, meaning lying is always a sin.
Yeah, but I don't think that like we should be criminalizing every single sin.
Okay, so then
Right.
how do we determine which sins we do and which sins we don't? What standard of your Bible do you have to determine that the sin of abortion is any worse than the sin of lying?
I would say that like the punishments of like murder, the punishments of lying are two different things, right?
Oh, wait, according to what gospel verse?
I would say like I would refer to like Genesis.
Genesis is not a part of the gospel. The gospel is Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John.
Oh, okay. You're going with you're asking what verse in the gospel says that murder is. What's the question?
Give me an argument from the Bible to conclude that the sin of abortion is worse than the sin of lying without referencing Mosaic law or Levitical law, as you are the one who has proclaimed that Mosaic and Levitical law were fulfilled by Jesus' second coming, death, and resurrection.
Well, you have to understand like the Genesis law, like the rules are given in Genesis, not necessarily like in like fulfilled, but like we're told in Matthew, we're told not to murder,
Okay.
and they will be liable to judgment.
Just saying that murder is a sin, and if you murder, you will be judged, is not saying
Yes.
that the sin of murder is worse than the sin of lying.
Well, I don't see any verse in the Bible where it's in the gospel verses, which show me the gospel verse where it says those who lie will be liable to judgment.
I don't need to show
me
you
that?
a gospel verse that says that, because I just need to show you the 10 Commandments,
Because there is
you
a
told me
one.
you uphold the 10 Commandments.
Yeah, well, 9 of the 10, yes. Yes, so like, are you going to show me the verse where it says that someone whose lying is liable to judgment compared to where, like in Matthew 5:21? where it
Wait,
says-
you logically have to accept this, because if you want to entertain the
That's what?
thought that those that lie are not liable to judgment, well, then you're telling me that some sins go unjudged by God.
It depends. It depends your state, right? So if you're in a fallen state or a saved state. But can we get back onto abortion though?
No,
Like, I don't
because this is
understand.
super relevant. Because now we've demonstrated to you that you have no coherent basis to criminalize access to abortion without criminalizing lying. And now you're telling me, oh wait, I have a question. So do you think if somebody sins, they're always going to be judged for that sin if they don't repent?
If they don't repent, will someone be judged for their sins?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, including the sin of lying?
Yes.
So if you commit the sin of lying, you will be judged, else repent?
Yes, you'll be judged.
Okay, so you just accepted the same basis that you used to argue that murder was worse than lying. However, we've now concluded that if you lie, you will also be judged unless you repent.
Yeah, so you have your eternal judgment, right? You'll get judged eternally. But some things that you do on this earth, you get judged like physically, right? So like if you say like a lie.
Wait, what do you
like,
mean judged physically? Judged by whom?
Like your time on earth by government.
By the
Right.
government?
Yes, by government.
Okay, so where in the Bible does it say that God thinks you should be judged by your government for murder, but not judged by your government from lying?
No Bible verse would say like have the thing of lying.
Okay,
And-
so then you're basically giving me an argument that exists outside of your Bible, so you're changing the word of your God in order to make an argument that women shouldn't be able to access healthcare. That's the reduction,
Well, no.
is that you're literally
No.
changing the words of your God in order to argue that women shouldn't be able to access healthcare.
No, I'm not changing anything in
Okay.
the word of God.
Okay. Well, then you have no base from the Bible to argue that we should be judged for murder on earth by our government, but we shouldn't be judged for lying on earth by our government. So therefore, your argument is baseless.
We're called not to murder anyone made in the image of God.
Just like we're called not to lie, dude. You're acting stupid as fuck at this point. I thought we've already been over this.
Listen. If there's, I think that we are called not to lie, and it is a commandment not to lie, right? In certain circumstances, though, it would be punishable by government enforcing, like if you did a lie, right? So, like, yes, you can get punished for lying.
We're not talking about what is, we're talking about what ought, right? And what ought be the case in accordance with your worldviews that sins should be illegal. And that would be the basis for your claim that abortion should be illegal, as you've already affirmed. And if the basis for your claim is that sin should be illegal, well, then you have no reason to argue that lying to your child, telling them that Santa Claus exists, shouldn't be legal, as lying is a sin.
Well, I think that it's in a, like, okay, let me like kind of like re-explain, right? It's not necessarily that like every sin needs to be made illegal. Obviously, that's
so then
not
why should
possible.
abortion be illegal?
So I'd say abortion should be made illegal because it will, like, I think that we should do in our best ability to prevent these things from happening, right? And I would say the best way in our ability to stop these things from happening would to be like making it illegal, right?
Okay, why should we do what's in our best ability to prevent abortion from happening?
Because again, it's taking of a human life,
Okay.
made in the image of God, right?
And why should we do the best in our ability to stop the taking of human life?
Because like it's killing somebody, like that's
And why should we do in the best of our ability to prevent killing? The answer is that it's wrong. And your explanation insofar as why it's wrong is that it's a sin. So we just go right back to what I said. You think that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin. You're just finding different words to reason that conclusion. This is what sophistry is. So if you're curious on what sophistry is, if you're watching, this is what sophistry is. His statement that we should criminalize abortion because it prevents the deaths of humans, and we need to do what is in the best of our abilities to prevent the deaths of humans because the deaths of humans is wrong, because wrongness is derivative of sin, is the same as saying that we need to criminalize abortion because it's a sin. He just wants to add on a bunch of extra words so my argument isn't clear. But even in the argument he's giving, it is still true that he thinks we should ban abortion because it's a sin. He just adds on, we should ban abortion because it's killing people, and killing people's wrong, and it's wrong because it's a sin. He's just adding extra steps to attempt to confuse me, but it's not working. So now that we know that the reduction of your view is that we should criminalize abortion because it's a sin, now you actually have a contradiction. Because 3 minutes ago you told us we shouldn't necessarily ban sins. So if we shouldn't necessarily ban sins, then you arguing that it's entailed that because abortion's a sin it should be banned, you have a contradiction, as that wouldn't actually be entailed.
So we don't have to, obviously not all sins can be legislated, where I would say abortion would be legislated. Now let me ask you something though, Dean, right? If you have a person who wants to continuously just get abortions, do you think that should be allowed? Like that's their driven passion in life is to get as many abortions as they can. Like should that be allowed? Yes or no?
We're not going to pivot.
Because in your argument you would have to say, yeah, that's fine because there's nothing immoral about having an abortion.
Yeah, the answer to the question would obviously be yes, right? That should be legally allowed. But we're not going to pivot because we're still not done with the topic of you attempting to convince me that you somehow have a coherent argument that lying should be legal in some circumstances. Meanwhile, abortion should be illegal. I just gave you a perfect description on how you ultimately think that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin. And if we should criminalize things that are sin, why would you argue that we shouldn't criminalize some forms of lying?
Mm-hmm. Well, if you look at like lying, it's like legally speaking, you can't implement like not lying because the Constitution, the freedom of speech, right? So we have freedom of speech, so you can't. We're talking about what should.
We're talking about what should, not what it is. The Constitution doesn't tell us what we should do. No. You're now doing an appeal to legality. You're attempting to use legal facts to argue what should be the case. Never use legal facts to argue what should be the case.
All right, so I would say that there is killing someone and lying are completely different things, where one has more severity over the other, right?
Now give me an argument from the scripture.
Just give me a moment then. I would have to.
It doesn't exist. Like I'm telling you, this is a catch-22 for Christians that are not Orthodox or Catholic. Like, this catch-22 was thought through a very long time ago by early church fathers that created the magisterium, created the normative authority of the church, and created the Catholic religion, right? But my homie down here, he's not Catholic. he doesn't have a distinction for the wrongness of most sins.
So, like, I mean, if you would just go to Genesis, where you see that, you know, Cain killed Abel, he killed somebody, and then God punished him for that thing, right? There's no act God punishing someone for saying like a simple like lie, right? In certain terms, actually, a lie is justified, and then if the lie is justified, then you don't necessarily get punished.
Now you're contradicting what you said earlier. Earlier you said lies can't be justified because all lies are sins. Are sins justified? Are you the devil?
I would say, well, listen, my point would, I would say like lying wouldn't always be a sin. But
Wait. So then breaking the 10 Commandments isn't always wrong.
Breaking the 10 Commandments is always sin. We're called not to bear false witness again.
Wait. If breaking the 10 Commandments is always a sin, then lying is always a sin, since lying is one of the 10 Commandments.
No, bearing false witness, not lying.
Oh, so so define bearing false witness and define lying. You want to do the circle again? I'll do it all day. I got time. This is where you concede. I don't know what to tell you. This is seriously where you concede, and then you start the existential crisis because you realize that there's literally no way to effectively and logically apply your religion to a criminal justice system. I'm not fucking tired. Let me make it clear. I do this every day for 4 hours. I could keep on going. I'm not fucking tired. No. I'm still drilling in on this shit. So now we're back to you arguing that lying is not equivalent to bearing false witness. Okay, define lying and define bearing false witness.
All right, Dean. Let's play into your argument here. Let's say we should make lying illegal. Make lying illegal, right? Make abortion illegal. Make all sins illegal, right? The whole point of the law was to show that we cannot uphold the law, right? And that's why we need Jesus. We need God for that, right? That's the reason it was given to us, right? So, like, in terms of like things, whether they're illegal or not, the whole point was that, you know, we as human beings are fallen and we should do our best to uphold all the laws to the best of our ability, right? Now, in terms of like murder and lying, like murder is having it's having an impact on another innocent human being made in God's image, right? Where like lying can be severe, but it can also be like not severe at the same time.
So you're just saying that the sin of murder is more harmful than the sin of lying. You have no argument for that rooted inside of your scripture.
Well, what do you mean? Like literally you see God punishing Cain and saying that like that you will die, and he casted him out for murdering, right?
So are you arguing if we don't see God do something, then he wouldn't do it?
No.
Oh, okay. So then your argument's invalid off rip.
You gotta get back onto why abortion's ethical.
Come on, bro. Come on, dude. No, or not, right? Because this is a conversation about pro-life versus pro-choice. Ban abortion versus not ban abortion. You're arguing that we should ban abortion, and I'm showing you how you have no argument that we should criminalize abortion in relation to the Christian religion unless you accept about 1,000,000,001 absurdities, such as the idea that we should also ban telling your children that Santa Claus exists.
Do you think abortion's a good thing or a bad thing?
Well, you forgot the third category, which would be moral permissibility. But I'm not going to entertain the pivot, kid. We're not done investigating your view, my friend. Remember, the view that we're investigating is if we can criminalize something because it's a sin.
We're not criminalizing lying. We're not doing that.
Okay.
But we can't.
So then, wait. So if you could say that we shouldn't criminalize lying, even if it violates God's moral commandment, then I can say we shouldn't criminalize abortion, even if it violates God's moral commandment. You have no argument against that. You're about to start pulling out Genesis where it says that murder's wrong. Guess what? Exodus says lying's wrong. Come on. Give me a refutation of my position. We should not criminalize abortion, even though it ingresses upon God's moral law. What is the counter argument?
Just because it's a sin doesn't mean it needs to be criminalized.
You're
right?
not. Oh, exactly. You're now actually just giving me more reason. We shouldn't criminalize abortion, even though it's an ingressment upon God's moral law, because just because it's a sin doesn't mean it should be criminalized. Refute my argument.
I agree in the terms of you should not criminalize every single sin. Now, the reason that we're criminalizing abortion is because you're killing another human being made in the image of God, right?
Okay. So now you're just trying to communicate to me either the reasons why it's a sin or why it's wrong. But guess what? I already said it was a sin, meaning I know it's wrong, and you're now just simply describing why it's wrong and why it's a sin. That's not actually combating my argument, right? Because in the same way, you're attempting to respond to my position that we shouldn't criminalize abortion even though it's a sin by describing why it's a sin. Well, if you were to say that we shouldn't ban lying even though it's a sin, well, I'll just describe why it's a sin too. You're bearing false witness, and that violates the 10 Commandments. So you offered me a description on why abortion's a sin. I offered you a description on why lying is a sin, but you still think that lying should be legal, and I still think that abortion should be legal. Where do we go from here?
I mean, like some things you'll be accountable to God, and some things you'll be accountable to the government, right? So like you're still like liable.
Already agreed. You already agreed that all sins will be held accountable by God, including lying and abortion.
Yeah.
So even though it's going to be held accountable by God, that doesn't change my argument that it should be legal, because you think lying should be legal, even though it's a sin that's going to be held accountable by God. Now, if you want to superimpose a view that only one of these two things should be held accountable by government, and that is a moral claim, give me the moral foundation for this claim.
Like for it being imposed by government?
What is the argument that some sins should be held accountable by government and others should not?
Sure. I would say like it would be like directly killing another innocent human being.
A description on why it's a sin. That doesn't change the fact that it's a sin, and there's other sins too, like lying. I'll just say violating the 10 Commandments, bearing false witness. A description on why it's a sin.
Yeah, it's a sin, but it's not necessarily legislated by government.
Oh,
and
well,
I would
okay.
say,
Well, just simply offering a description on why something is a sin is not enough to argue that it should be legislated on by the government. Well, you offering a description on why you think abortion is a sin is not a sufficient argument to demonstrate why it should be legislated on by the government.
Because it directly impacts another human being.
Well, that's supposed to communicate wrongness, right?
Like, sure, yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just simply communicating wrongness when I say that lying is a sin. The fact that it's a sin communicates wrongness.
Repeat that one more time. I didn't get that.
You're saying that the sin of abortion should be legislated on by the government because it's killing another life. Well, the statement killing another life there is just communicating wrongness. So in other words, you're saying that this sin should be legislated on by the government because it causes wrongness. Okay, first and foremost, the argument is redundant. We've already agreed that it's a sin. Sins necessarily communicate wrongness. So in other words, you're saying this thing that communicates wrongness should be legislated on by the government because it communicates wrongness. And if your argument is this thing that communicates wrongness should be legislated on by the government because it communicates wrongness, would just simply apply to lying too. Lying is a thing that communicates wrongness, and it should be legislated on by the government because it communicates wrongness.
Well, the difference is that it's like you're adding another human being into this, right? So another human being is
adding another human being. Are you attempting to make it wronger, worse? So now we're just getting right back to the basis where you're finding a way to approach the conversation that you think one sin is worse than another sin. Give me a theological basis for that.
Sins that kill or murder human beings should 100% be legislated, right? So would you agree with that?
This is an internal critique. My thought shouldn't matter.
So how do your thoughts not matter?
Because it's an internal critique of your worldview. Why would what I think be relevant to your worldview?
I mean, it could be, but probably.
How is my thoughts relevant to your thoughts?
Because like if you explained your thoughts to me, then it could change my worldview.
Okay. Well, my thoughts that would hopefully change your worldview here is that there's just no basis to argue that some sins should be legal, meanwhile others should be illegal. We've gotten you to the basis of arguing that the sin of abortion should be illegal because it kills another life. Meanwhile, the sin of lying shouldn't be legal because it doesn't kill another life. But the statement kills another life is just trying to communicate that one is worse than the other. So at its core, you're saying that the sin of abortion should be illegal because it's worse than the sin of lying. Let me ask you the question. Do you think that the sin of abortion is worse than the sin of lying?
I would say it's more severe, yeah.
So you would say it's worse. Now give me the theological grounding for the claim that the sin of abortion is worse than the sin of lying. If you fail to give me the theological foundation for the claim that the sin of abortion is worse than the sin of lying, then you're believing in something without reason.
Well, do you think that murder?
What I think, give me the foundation.
I don't have the verses on me, Dean.
Okay, so then you have no reason for your claim. So ultimately speaking, your argument that abortion should be banned reduces down to your thoughts and feelings, not rooted inside any text or any reason in association with the Christian God, the Christian religion, your perfect moral standard, the gospel, and so on.
It's the same level as like a sin. An abortion would be on the same level in the way that it separates us from God, right? But abortion causes another human being to lose their life, right? So it's
Why
more
is
severe.
that relevant if it doesn't make it worse?
Well, it would make it worse. Like for instance, like if I lied, right? If I lied and I said like,
Okay, what is worse? What is bad? Where does badness come from?
what does badness come from? The heart? I don't know.
No. Like literally, like, oh my God. Okay. Why are things wrong?
Why are things wrong?
Yes.
Because it was not the intended design of that thing. I don't know.
The theological answer would be that it ingresses upon God's moral law.
Yeah, so there was like an intended purpose for this thing, and then it's no longer that intended purpose, or I don't know.
It'd just be that it ingresses upon God's moral law. So if it ingresses upon God's moral law, it's wrong. Can one thing... so now that we understand what wrongness is, just an ingression upon God's moral law, well, both of these two things ingress upon God's moral law.
Yes.
Right?
So
if you
let
want
me
to
give you an
argue that
example
one
of
is
how-
worse than the other, well, then you'll have to be able to give me an argument in accordance with God's moral law to demonstrate that. Where do we find God's moral law? The Bible. Can you give me an argument from the Bible to demonstrate that the sin of abortion is worse than the sin of lying?
Sure. So you're saying that all sin is equal, correct?
I'm saying that there's no clear foundation inside of the Bible to argue that one sin is any worse than any other.
So if I lied though, right? Let's say I lied about something to my buddy or whatever, and then minimal, I was just a joke, right? It's like, oh, you're ugly, right? I did that, and I compare it to like I lied about like I'm gonna go do this thing, I'm gonna go hurt this person, right? And like I'm lying about, and I'm scaring other people, right? One, I would say a lie would be like more severe than the other lie, right? So like you have to look at like each of them.
Wait, according to what foundation? To you or God? Is it worse to you or is it worse to God?
So it would be worse in the
No. Answer my question. Is it worse to you or is it worse to God?
It's neither one though. It's neither one.
Okay,
like
wait. So you just affirmed that it's not worse to God, right?
Well, both of them, it both separates. Right?
Is it worse to God or is it not worse to God? I'm done with your fucking pedantic sophist bullshit. Answer the goddamn question. Is it worse to God or is it not worse to God?
It's both. It's both. It separates us from God.
Wait. It's both worse and not worse to God simultaneously?
It's worse as in terms of like it separates. Each sin separates us from God, right? However, it would be worse. Like there are abominations to God. It's like on a hierarchy of different sins, right?
Okay, wait. Where do we find a hierarchy of sins insofar as their level of wrongness / severity rooted inside of gospel?
Abominations to the Lord. Let me see.
Jesus Christ. Paul, appreciate you so much for the $20 over on PayPal. Paul says this guy is like logic is subjective. I only want some logic that makes sense. Yeah. Paul with another $20 saying, why does all of MAGA sell one brain cell? Yeah, thank you for the $40, Paul. And then Laura with the $25, Autumn with the 10. Thank you guys so much. If you want to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio. Erica with the $2 over on Venmo. The Nancy with the $25 on Venmo saying atheists / agnostics always know more about the Bible than people who identify as Christian. Quite frequently they can. As well as Wesley 45 minutes ago with the $20. Actually $40. Thank you, Wesley. As well as I read your message there. I'm gonna check out Mr. Global. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the $40, Wesley. So do you have an argument that there's a hierarchy of the wrongness of sins in accordance with the Christian theology?
All right, okay. So let's say we'll concede. I don't necessarily have an argument, okay?
You don't? So you just conceded the whole entire pro-life view?
No. Because why would you... Okay, do you think that murder's okay, Dean? Do you think that murder's
Dava,
okay?
Thank you so much for the $5 over on PayPal. Remember, this is an internal critique of your view, but no, I don't think murder's okay.
Really? Why?
Why? So now you're going to start investigating me and why I think things are
Exactly,
wrong?
Dean. Exactly.
Because of rights violations. I think, well, murder
Perfect.
descriptively is not okay because it's defined as unjust.
Of course, right? So like you would say that murder is wrong though, right? So then why would you think that a fetus is not worthy of that protection? That is like, you know, a rights violation?
Because I think that something else rather than the life of the fetus grants the right to life. I don't understand why that's relevant to the investigation of your view, because if you're conceding the totality of your argument, you're no longer pro-life. I just got you to concede the pro-life view.
Nah, Dean,
Yes,
nah.
you conceded it. You said, Dean, I concede. So
I'm
when
not
you said,
concede
Dean,
that,
I
Dean.
concede, did you mean to concede? When you said, Dean, I concede, did you
conceded the
actually
point.
concede? Or when you said, Dean, I
terms of,
concede,
like-
did you commit the sin of lying that should be illegal in accordance with your logic? Did you just do something just as wrong as an abortion?
I conceded the fact that like there's like I don't have on deck like a hierarchy of sins that I can give you at this current moment,
Okay,
right?
well, I mean, so if you don't have a description insofar as why you think some sins are worse than the others, meaning that this belief is not rooted within your Bible, then why are you belligerently applying this false belief rooted in the text of your Bible to control what other people can and can't do with their bodies?
I would say like consciously it's wrong to murder. Like it doesn't. You don't even necessarily like I know that it's.
Oh,
like,
now
wrong
we're just
to
going back to it's wrong for the 15th fucking time. So is lying, sin in the Bible. You don't have an okay, listen. You just conceded that you cannot articulate to me any basis founded within the text of the Bible that one sin is worse than any other. What does this mean? All sins are just as wrong as one another. You're communicating to me that abortion should be illegal because it's a sin that's wrong, and if it's just as wrong, identically as wrong as a sin of lying, who are you to fucking say that lying shouldn't be illegal?
All right, so let me clarify then. So not all sins are the same. Now I know you're gonna tell me to get the verse, right?
Then give me
Hold
the
on.
basis inside of your theology.
So all sins are equal in the sense that they separate you from God, right? However, all sins have a different impact.
Nice claim. Give an argument.
All right, I don't know, Dean. I don't know.
So you don't have a basis for the argument.
Dean, I don't do this 4 hours a day, Dean. You gotta chill.
Wait. So if the end of the conversation reduces down to the idea that you have no logical basis for your claim that abortion should be illegal, then even though you think I have no logical basis for my claim that abortion should be legal, you can't critique that shit. So there we go. My argument for you is that abortion should be legal because I think it. I just think so. I have no logical basis, and you have no refutation to that argument. Literally, a pro-choicer saying that they think abortion should be legal for no reason is just as logically coherent as your position insofar as why you think it should be illegal. And if there is no logical difference between your belief that it should be illegal and my belief that it should be legal, maybe you should go back down to the drawing board and find a logical basis for your claim before you use your claim to infringe upon people's access to healthcare. Or, if you'd posit, well, Dean, I'm going to continue to be pro-life, even though I have no logical basis for the claim. Dean, I'm going to continue to advocate for infringing upon people's access to particular buildings, even though I have no logical basis to my claim. You can't tell a white supremacist that supports racial segregation that they're in the wrong, because they're doing the same thing you are. I'm going to take rights away from black people, even though I have no logical basis for my claim. Is logically speaking the same, saying I want to take rights away from women, even though I have no logical basis for my claim. And that's where we're at.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely like do more research into it to like get back at you. So if you want to have me on another time, I'm down to come on again. But at this current moment, I don't have.
Based. Okay. Into conversation. Sorry I didn't kick him earlier, chat. I truly think that is I just think that's an argument that can't be beat. So even though he was a sophist and we went back and forth on like one thing for 50 minutes, the reason why I didn't give it up, and maybe I should have, maybe I should have. The reason why I didn't give it up is because it's just an argument that can't be beat. There's no way to explain from the Christian worldview, unless you endorse like the Catholic Church or the Orthodox Church, that some sins should be legal and other sins should not be legal. It is overlooked by everyone all the time. And it's ridiculous. It is literally just as like an incoherent of a belief as flat earth. It's just not talked about as much. And it's funny because I'm like one of the only people that runs that argument. Like you would assume that like people would talk about this. You'd assume that there's like very common counter arguments that like everybody knows, right? About how, oh, you're a Christian and you think that abortion should be illegal? Oh, well, you don't think that all sin should be illegal, so you're wrong. Nobody does that. Nobody talks about it, even though it is the best argument against pro-life Christians. Mackenzie, thank you for the $5 over at Vim. I appreciate you. Crystal with a $1, then Jessica with a 5, saying that this man needs to either reread the Bible or identify with another religion. That's what I did as a former Catholic who's pro-choice. Yep. Erica with the $2, thank you so much. Then Charles with a 1. Thank you guys so much for all of the love. You guys have been so great today. Then Paul, thank you for another $15 over on PayPal. Thank you, man. And Tava with the 5. As well as Libra with the $10 on Super Chat, saying that abortion is not a sin. A fetus is not considered a living being until its first breath, as per the Bible. Psalms and Jeremiah are about divine foreknowledge. The Bible is not pro-life. So that's actually the other side of the coin. There's also very convincing arguments that the Bible just simply isn't pro-life. Some of these arguments can be rooted within, what that donation just shared, but also within personhood as described throughout Levitical law and how we see that fetuses are like assigned property rights in the Old Testament. Okay, everybody, it is now 6 p.m. I have a bachelor's/bachelorette party to go to. Pretty exhausting day today. Maybe before we leave, we'll let this do it up. I saw the cross in your name. I guess I'm gonna assume that you want to add on to what the last guest said there.
Yeah. So you keep asking us how old
are you?
I'm 19.
Okay. All right. And do you think that you could clearly determine that one sin is worse than another sin?
No. You ask how we still support Trump. How do you still support Kamala? What has she done?
This guy just... See, I thought because of the cross in his name, he was coming in off of that last conversation. My bad. So why did I support Kamala Harris in the election?
Yeah.
I think my primary reason was that she wasn't a rapist with really good economic policy. Like if you were to have me reduce it down to a sentence, in a nutshell, I supported Kamala Harris over Trump because she was a rapist with better... she was not a rapist,
She's
and
a rapist?
She had better economic policy.
Kamala's a rapist?
No, Donald Trump is. Like, that's like the reduction of my reasons, honestly.
Okay, but give me, like, accomplishments that Kamala has.
Kamala is how you pronounce her name. Sure. She served in all three branches of government. She served as an AG and an attorney fulfilling the judiciary branch. She served in the legislative branch as a senator, and she served in the executive branch as a VP. Can you name anybody else that's ever done that?
No. Those are all, like, some, like...
So damn, that's like a really huge fucking accomplishment if you can't name anybody else that's ever done that.
As vice president, what did she accomplish?
Well, sure. She passed the most tie-breaking votes in the Senate compared to any VP in American history. Alongside, she worked with the Biden administration, passed some of the most monumental domestic policy in modern American history, such as the PACT Act, which was a near $1 billion investment into expanding via healthcare resources, such as the infrastructure bill that was a $1 trillion investment to build new infrastructure in America to create more jobs to inspire economic growth, which pulled us out of the inflation onset by the pandemic faster than any other country in the G7. She also worked to pass the Chips and Science Bill, which invested $50 billion into the production of chips on American soil, which bumped our global supply from sub 1% to 30%, alongside other great policy. In fact, I think your question was disingenuous because 9 out of 10 people will not be able to tell you what a vice president does. I'm going to prove this to you with one simple question. Name one thing any vice president in American history has ever done.
Anything better than Kamala's ever done?
No, just anything that any VP in American history has ever done.
Kamala was in charge
Kamala
of the border.
is how you pronounce her name, but that's not the question that I'm asking you. Answer my question. Name one thing that any VP in American history has ever done. Do you need me to repeat it again? Don't worry, I will. Name one thing that any VP in American history has ever done. And he left. Okay. Well, you know, actually, I thank you so much for the music stage. Holy shit, Birdie, thank you. It's very kind of you. I said I was going to get off at 6 and somehow we fit another debate in there. We fit another debate in there. Let's fucking go. Okay. Matt just sent me a text saying, does my energy come bottled in a can? I need it. Bro, I'm not going to lie. I am feeling pretty energetic right now. Don't know why. I'm usually feeling like not energetic at all. Anyways, hey. For everybody that has joined us today on TikTok and YouTube, thank you guys so much for hanging out for the last 4 hours. It was fun. It was very, very fun. I'm going to go ahead and hop off because I got to go to a little bit of a party. For everybody in the chat spamming one more, I wish I could. Unfortunately, that last one will be the last one for the day. I love every single one of you guys so much, and I can't wait to see you tomorrow. You guys are the highlight of my day every single day. And also, by the way, my birthday is in exactly 1 week and 2 days. So I'm going to be celebrating that on live with y'all. I'm going to be on live the day before, obviously. That'll be fun because I'm going to go out that night. And then also the day of. The day of. Okay, September 1st. I'll be live the day of. I haven't missed a live on my birthday since I started doing these lives, and it's just a trend. Well, it's not a trend. Now it's like a tradition. It is a tradition for me to spend 4 or so hours on my